And I see that a scholar of Spanish literature has written a paper on Journal of UFO Investigator.
Get you.
Might be right.
So, Kristen, what do you think about that one?
Well, obviously this whole class has basically been based around Don Quixote and its influence of other books and kind of the similar themes that we've been seeing throughout the 4 books we've read this semester. And so I found kind of in the same general area as Maggie's question about UFO and the Bible and how that is how they're dissimilar but also similar and how they influence Danny. I found a passage that I really liked. It's on page 158, and it talks about in the mass fabric of reality, there's always a slit. You must find it, then gather the power to force your way through it and shoot yourself toward that slit as though out a gun. On the other side, you'll be in the sunlight once more, where you were born to be. Miss it, and you'll wander in darkness and thirst. And I found that this is what he's attempting to do with his journal and what Don Quixote was attempting to do with his books of chivalry. He was attempting to get on the other side and be in the sunlight once more and be in an area and a reality that was something that they aspired to have. And so I think it's a really good comparison and could be helpful in kind of determining where Danny was coming from and what he was using his love for UFOs in his journal for to accomplish in his own life. And so I thought that was a really interesting comparison. And you kind of already mentioned this when you brought up Don Quixote and how it kind of, you didn't realize you were writing along the similar lines. But it's definitely, I think, visible, and it just shows kind of the influence that other books have on your life, as the UFO books had on Danny's life, and the books of chivalry on Don Quixote's, but also the books that you have read and how they've influenced your work. And so I think that's an awesome comparison. And then about leaving his books behind, he doesn't get rid of them, but he doesn't bring them to college, which I thought was significant because it kind of shows that it is still and will always be a part of who he is. It definitely shaped his younger years. He may be looking for now other sources of reading or inspiration for later years in life, but it'll always still be a part of him. And it's definitely something that he used to try and get to the other side of this dark time he was in. And so that's kind of like my perception.
So that he does right, neither to throw them away.
Yeah.
Which is to abandon the Danny whom we've known for most of this book, the awkward Danny, the Danny who's depicted through such hostile lenses when imaginary Danny looks at real Danny across the border. But also, they're not going to confine him anymore. He's going to go beyond them. I mean, I think at the end, Dr. Joy, isn't it at the end of Don Quixote, that Cervantes talks as if all he's doing is trying to debunk the books of knight errantry, that they've gone out of fashion, and now I hope that they'll just disappear entirely. But I don't think he really means that. That he knows that he's not writing a book of debunkery. He's writing a book showing how these books of knight errantry can work their way into a human being, into the really essential quest of a human being. That he's doing something much more profound and powerful than he tries to make us believe he is. Would you agree with that?
Are you asking me or Kristen?
Yeah, actually, whoever wants to answer that, but I guess I would.
These poor students have heard me talk so much about Don Quixote.
You're all experts on Don
Quixote. One more day. I think one important difference is your character graduates in 1967, right?
Yeah.
High school?
Yeah.
Whereas Don Quixote is living and dying in early 17th century Spain, which is a totalitarian society, not much freedom at all, whereas your character is graduating and going off to college. So it breaks down at the end, and I think he might have some interesting adventures in college.
Yeah.
Right?
You just have to read my next book when that comes.
That's what I'm thinking. So I think the cultural context is where it breaks down somewhat. But I do think they were on, or Cervantes and your own self are on a similar sort of mission. So you're right to compare yourself with Miguel.
I am so honored.